EA University, which is a all-day workshop that has 3 speakers. I am one of them. 2 of the other speakers are actual executive assistants fulfilling EA high functioning roles today. And then we have 2 breakout sessions. We have a breakfast that's served, a lunch that is served. It is an elegant day as well. I want you guys to be served very well. And we close with a happy hour. Cocktails optional. In the SOARe analysis, a lot of you guys have heard SWOT. And within SWOT, we have strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. I pride myself on wanting to find the positive and good in everything. And I did not like it because weaknesses was in there and threats was the closing word. So I took to the internet one day some alternatives for that. And I found probably, I think, Google page 7, SOARe, strengths, opportunities, aspirations, and results. And so I have made it my own. And I have added a lowercase e for the sake of energy at the end. So it's a silent E. Yes.
1 second, sorry to interrupt. It looks like I lost my admin process rights. Do you think you could accept everybody who's in the waiting room right now?
Yes, happy to. And let me scroll to the top or to the bottom, and it's not showing that. Allow. Okay, I'm gonna transfer back host to you.
Okay, that might help.
Actually, it's not showing me that I am a host still.
Okay. Oh.
Remove spotlight.
Well,
I think we're in the right room with the right people to have a technical difficulty with Zoom because everyone's like, let's give her some space. She's going to figure it out. I am only seeing 17 participants. I saw earlier when a woman from Hazelden joined that a pop-up came for me. I am not seeing the other function to welcome them.
Okay, then perhaps we have everybody here. So then let's continue. And if I figure out anything else, I will let people in or do it behind the scenes. But otherwise, continue. So sorry to interrupt.
No, not at all. No, I'm glad you did. It shows that Julia is the host. Yes. Okay. Thank you, Joy. All shows that Julia is the host and Hilani as a co-host. Okay, Julia, Joy, thank you. All right, here we go. So in the essence of SOARe, and I have a timer going, so if I happen to look down, you guys, it's just because I want to make sure that we use all of our minutes together today. We all know our strengths. And one of the things I get very passionate about is how are we using an elevated vocabulary to describe who we are? We fall into that just assistant bucket when we use language that is very similar to everyone else, right? It's just a sneaker. It has the sole, it has the laces. How is it going to be different? It's through the color. It's maybe through, the sole itself. How can they show that they are different? I believe that everyone in this room today is their own brand of service. And sometimes people like to argue with me, Hilani, I'm not a brand. And I immediately say the following: Joanna Gaines is a brand and she's a human. Her husband, Chip Gaines, is a brand and he is a human. Humans can actually be brands, and the style of service that you bring into your administrative role defines your brand. Are you super great at Excel and numbers? Are you exceptional when it comes to event planning? You have your own outliers that give you that edge when it comes to essentially advertising your brand of service as an administrative individual. So let's go to the chat box, please. And I would like to start reading a few comments on some of the strengths you believe that you have, and give me your top one. A lot of you guys say attention to detail, organization, event planning. I'm gonna kind of look for some creative words to specify the strengths that you have as it relates to an administrative role. And I have the chat box open, so I'm looking as well. Communication champion, love it. Proactive, very good. Multitasking. Always thinking. Calm, self-aware, anticipate needs, seeing the big picture. Okay, very good. Time manager, and we'll park on that in just a moment. Ninja, Someone who's really good at Tetris, right? That counter. Magician, very good, Joy. Technical troubleshooting, high EQ, very good. Creating tools, very good. Self-aware, anticipating needs, seeing the big picture, excellent. I wrote down as my first one, crystal ball, right? When we're in this job, we often try to find ways, and if we think about having a decent amount of time with our executive, there's a little bit of Charlie Brown's teacher that occurs, the wah, 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 when we're talking, because we're using the same language that we've been using all the time. And we haven't grabbed their new lens of listening because we're repeating and sharing the same style of communication that we did on day one. In one of my podcasts, she spoke about if you do the job, later in the timeline that you've been in the role, the same as you did in the beginning, how have you advanced? As well as if you're doing it similar to the person before you, what are you doing to show up stronger? And so using different vocabulary is a big thing I like to push. You have a crystal ball and you use it every day. That's where we anticipate. That's where we're able to predict. That's where we're also able to predict when that flyby executive that's going to need your executive is essentially not really meeting your executive's time. How can you be a healthy gatekeeper? Giving them a chance to get what they need from you, which essentially just took you to the next level of the first word of your title, executive. That is the first word of your title. And it is extremely powerful to remember that because we want to be able to make executive decisions. Crystal ball is one I like to use, calm demeanor, right? We often want to talk about how emotional intelligence is a big part of what we do. Is our executive going to have a great day or a bad day? I distinctly recall oftentimes getting text messages from my executive at 5 a.m., knowing that the executive is going to be working out soon, probably having an early breakfast. He's absolutely going to need an early lunch because I don't do hangry. And so in order to avoid the hangry, you have to kind of pay attention to that emotional piece of the individual that we're managing all day. And how do we bring in that level of hospitality? So some of the other things is being hospitable, being personable, as well as, and I saw it in there, communication. Communication is key. I have 2 articles on my website I get often good feedback on. Taking the style of communication to the next level on how we're communicating inside and outside. It really speaks volumes to how we're using our executives' time. And we always like to say things like time management, we're efficient. I have often said, especially in this workshop, you are no longer managing someone's time, you are managing their energy. If you tell them you are their energy manager, you immediately get a different lens of listening on what your role is and how they perform every day. Energy management is powerful. I am a morning person and I love my assistant, Leah. She knows if we're having a meeting at the end of the day, I'm not fully present. Kind of tapped out a little bit. I've asked often, may I please be excused when we're done? Because I just am without the ability to make any more decisions. And that's why she knows she also, I'm admitting someone in the room, Jennifer. Okay. Where she also knows, like, what does that agenda look like, right? If we're having a one-on-one meeting, what is priority? So I want you guys to think about some new ways to present who you are. And you're an energy manager now. You're not a time manager. And I'll tell you the other reason why. Time is not a luxury. When you're on vacation and your toes are in the sand and you realize it's 11 and you're like, wow, it's only 11. What should we do for the rest of the day? That is when time is a luxury. When it's 11 and you're at the office and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't have enough time to finish my work today. That's the proof that time is not a luxury. And so how do we change the way we review and understand time? It's through energy manager. Any questions or comments for the chat before I move on? And I'll share a housekeeping right there too. So as we go through each of these areas, please feel free to drop in some thoughts or questions into the chat so I can address them hot while we're covering it. But any other sort of larger general questions, I want to give time at the end for a Q&A. Please go ahead and hold on to those for the end part of our time together. All right. So nothing on SOARe, nothing on strengths. I'm going to go back to my long list. I track things often when I'm talking to people. Speaking up comes up a lot. Are you using some of your talents to their fullest potential? And when I do SOARe, I've heard multiple times, going through it more than once a year is powerful because your strengths change, which then moves us to the next thing, opportunities. We always have opportunities to be tighter with our communication. We always have the opportunity to be stronger in our note taking. I can't see hands because I see a lot of boxes with white names on them. Oh, I see someone from Hazelden. Hi. My first thing would be, if you guys could quickly put in, so I can see a whole bunch of yeses and nos or maybes. Do you get one-on-ones with your executive, whether it's weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly? I'd love to see where that's at with our group. I get a no. Oh, mostly a bi-weekly. Yes, weekly. Hazelden. Ooh, hey, that makes me happy. Yes, weekly. Heather. Great. Very good. Okay. So I had a wonderful, not scheduled, but on demand. I get that. Leah and I have that a lot. Weekly with 2 and daily with 1. Excellent. Okay, that's very good. Very good. So one of the biggest things in the opportunities category is our executives suffer from cognitive load. Okay. They also suffer from decision fatigue. So we have the opportunity as administrative professionals, and even though I'm not in EA role, I still use the word we because I love my people. Cognitive load, and now I've killed my marker and use a new color. Cognitive load is really key on a large part of what you do. When you're interacting with your executive and you recognize kind of that deer in the headlights shows up, we are overloading them with information, which yes, we usually need them, especially if there's a break in trust. Decision fatigue, my boss is always, what is Jennifer? My boss has always quoted that one. Yeah, decision fatigue is huge. That's why you also want to know their prime time for energy output, right? And if you're sending correspondence with a ton of questions, it's going to be challenging for them to be able to get back to you. And so I hear often too from admins, they're like, I send an email and I don't get a response. And I actually ran a poll on my LinkedIn business page that was the largest frustration, was just that delayed response time. And I can give you some tips on that. So let's just say areas of opportunity are response, okay? Increasing response time. We need them to do things for us so we can do things for them. So we want to be able to kind of get their attention. And I know this sounds very weird, you guys. We want them to be really excited to respond to us. And how do we kind of create that sense of energy for them to say, oh, I want to get back to Hilani because I know she needs this from me. That is how you've shown up to them, giving them the quick chance to get back to you. They then immediately have from you a relief in cognitive load, which is a large part of what your job is, to alleviate them, which then I'm already starting to feel the weight falling on all of our shoulders as we sink down because we have so much that we're supposed to do. So response time, we want to increase that, which means through cognitive load. I can't spell today. Cognitive load, we want to be able to alleviate that. Okay, cognitive load, decision fatigue, right? With decision fatigue, how do we alleviate that? So the areas of opportunity are getting response time, cognitive load, and decision fatigue. We want to alleviate that. The other things too, when it comes to areas of opportunity, and sometimes a review is coming and you want to have a more productive discussion with them. You want to be able to let them know that you've done an amazing job. And here's the problem, ladies. I don't know if we have any gentlemen. I'll represent the gentlemen here as well. We make it look easy. And the stuff that we are doing behind the scenes that they have no clue about is us slightly enabling them, but it's also what fills us up because we're just getting stuff done all day. So in order for them to not be bogged down by the details, it is sometimes important to say, I've done this, 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 and those things are moving forward, right? They want to have that sense of things moving forward, which is why so many CEOs from the surveys I read in the first 3 months of the pandemic in 2020, they didn't feel like they were going anywhere. And if we know the speed in which they move, that became very suffocating as a business owner, an employer of people, a parent, or a spouse of some sort, partner. How we have habits, how we work smarter, not harder, is through the way that we communicate. And so communication comes up again. If you are sending an email, and this is full circle back to response time, if you're sending an email with updates and questions in one email, sorry, you're doing it wrong. You need to send an email that has in the subject line updates, in brackets, read only. That's it. They're in their Uber, they're laying in bed at 11 o'clock at night, they're reading it, they're getting it, and then the best thing that you can do is tell them, we've been having a great week. We're getting a lot done. That's where you come in from, that nurturing side, male or female, to give them the accolades. They don't hear that. They don't hear it from their board. They don't hear it from other staff. It should be coming from you. And that is where we lead. We lead through our language, and we lead through our ability to be nurturing and essentially hospitable to the fact that the executive has so much going on. If you have an email teed up that has questions, you will put in the subject line, attention required, and then in brackets, response needed, right? You're separating your communication. They then can realize, all right, at 5 a.m., I'm gonna have Joy's email up and ready to go, bing, bang, boom. Here's the biggest thing. If you guys are sending an email with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and they're all questions, and you already know, or you want to test out your ability to anticipate, here's 3 suggested options based on what I've learned, the executive can respond to 1A as their answer, 2B as their answer. All they're typing back is a letter and a number. They're done. If it requires a sense of discussion, have at the bottom, say next to the number, please put the letter D. That will tell me you want to discuss it. The biggest thing you guys can do, which supports cognitive load, is creating shortcuts. Leah and I have probably a half a dozen things for shortcuts. AR, waiting response. I can't even think of some of the other ones. They're just so natural for us to focus through. You also want to be able to create those opportunities where you guys have code, and you want to start with the easy ones. For example, what I just mentioned with the letter D, discussion required. Maybe you say DR, discussion required. One of the other things that I remember doing as an EA here in the opportunities was the ability to actually put in a spreadsheet, columns and rows. And on the far right was my executive's name. That was his column. He typed, went to the next box, typed, went to the next box, and it was there, which essentially is the largest form of managing up. I told him where I want him to respond. I told him exactly how I want him to interact back with me, and he hit send, and there's also not a lot of interpretation issues because it was very clean and concise. That goes to my type A, which for anyone in this room that knows me, I think there's only one of them, Miss Hazelden. I am a big fan of letting people know I am a lowercase type A. Used to be very uppercase, used to be a lot of plus signs, and that was just far too suffocating. So I decided I still want to be a type A because it helps me do the work that I want to do to serve others every day, but I need a little bit more grace and breathing room, so I'm a lowercase A. But if you ever need the uppercase A, it's absolutely available to you. Any questions about opportunities?
Don't see any so far, but I love these tactical tips. This is brilliant.
Great.
It's good for our executives, and it's really good for us.
Yeah, excellent, good. Moving to the next thing, aspiration. I'm going to talk about money for a hot second. And we won't be able to obviously park here for very long. I did release a podcast episode that has a controversial title for a reason. It's titled, Don't Ask for a Raise. It goes for almost 26 minutes, and it's the wisdom in the work that I do now with talent acquisition. It's the wisdom of over 100 placements of admins, mainly in Denver. I've expanded outside of Denver this year, which is exciting. But I've also talked to admins in Silicon Valley making 6 figures, New York admins, Miami admins. I'm honored I get around in a good way in order to be able to work with and hear from and interact with admins across the nation. We always aspire to more money. And while I think that's great, some individuals will make too much too soon in their career, and you put an expiration date on your back of whether or not you're going to be able to financially move that needle. I heard a lot last year, individuals were being let go because of COVID, and then the role came back up and they didn't get called back to take that seat, and it's because they need to save money on the budget. And so I don't like to sit in any position of negativity or sadness, but aspiration is usually something that people are looking for in here. Sometimes aspiration is also trust, and how do you build trust? And so moving from the word just an assistant, it's interesting. I get calls from clients who are looking for individuals to serve with them in the needs of the business and life. And I'll say, tell me what you're looking for. They'll describe a chief of staff, just so most of you know. And I'll say, well, that's a chief of staff. No, that's not what I'm looking for. And I'll say, okay, well, let me tell you what the executive assistant title can cover today. And I'll kind of go through it, and they'll say, I'd like that, please. I will then ask them, how does this person serve you? And they're like, well, they're helping me save time. That is for you guys. You guys are turning time into productivity. And I hear often when I'm networking pre-COVID, Hilani, this role that you fill doesn't make the company money. I'll say, what's your time worth? They make a hefty hourly. We're not nearly making half of that hourly, right? Maybe a fifth, a sixth of it. What is your time worth? And going back again to luxury of time, I'll then say, how's your health? Is your health good? Are you doing meditation? And that really came to the forefront for all of us with everything of 2020, is what are we doing and how are we serving our well-being? So aspiration is time productivity. Sometimes admins ask me, I want to block time for my executive. How do I start blocking time? That was a really big thing last year with COVID. And I would say that this is a habit that I have. If you have 10 things you need to do, and you can identify that the first one takes 5 minutes, the next one is 1 hour, and it requires another person 30 minutes, you can kind of see where I'm going with this, and like 6 hours, and it's a group meeting. If you have the opportunity to write down your list or type it, a lot of people type. If you write down your list and you recognize, because this goes to, I aspire to have a sense of accomplishment every day. If I check off as many things as possible and I start with the things that take the least amount of work, my to-do list has changed. My to-do list has shrunk down. And going back to the question about one-on-one meetings, some of those that aren't getting them, some of them that are having them, I heard this last time I gave this session in an hour. Is it a working meeting or is it a decision meeting? You kind of want to start to identify. A working meeting means that Leah, which I'm guilty of, I did this today. She gave me a tap. She asked about something and I said, I'm just going to do it right now. I opened it up and I just started tackling it, which was fine. We had a whole hour and we had the ability, because of the way that we blocked the calendar, I had it turn into a working meeting at first, and then I got it to a decision. If you're showing up with working action items coupled with decision, know to bifurcate those two so you can go to decision first, get them exhausted, and then fast execution on the tasks that they then have this sense of accomplishment. This is also why some of these executives punt you off, because they don't leave those meetings with you feeling a sense of accomplishment, because you need a lot, which fully justified, by the way. All of you are there to serve a higher power and a higher purpose. That is why you're in your role. And so kind of thinking about how you're going to do those one-on-one meetings from a working or a decision, and maybe specify that. There's another episode of my podcast. It's called Productivity, Same Page Everything. You should probably stop calling it a one-on-one meeting and call it a same page meeting. When they see that new language associated on the calendar, they're like, I absolutely want Beth and I to be on the same page. Why would I not want that? You get a different energy that shows up, because they also don't like that your list grows, because then you have more questions for them. The last thing, as it comes to aspiration, and this is to all of my type A's out there, and I can't see all of you, but I'm just going to assume we're all type A in a good way. When you have a universal bar of expectation, because everyone see that straight line pretty much? I'm seeing some faces. Yeah, I get a thumbs up. Okay. When you have a universal bar of expectation, but the task you have has a different expectation on completion, you have this gap that you are possibly trying to fill for absolute perfection when it's not necessary. Meaning, when you're looking at your communication to someone and you're like, oh my God, I've read this sentence like 5 times. Like, can I send it? Can I not send it? Do I have a minute to take a break to come back to it? Because darn, I'm really big on typos. If your expectation bar is always too high and you're trying to reach higher than necessary for the task, you're wasting time. So really think about the task that you're doing. What is the real 100% completion? Also, if it's outbound or inside the organization, who is my audience? I'm aspiring to stand up and look stronger in my role for my brand as an assistant. Am I making it clear on the audience of who I'm talking to? And is the expectation I have set for myself in line or out of line? That is where we as administrative individuals buy our own time back, which is key. I'm going to say something very profound. And if we were in a room together, I may ask you to get up and do this, but I won't, because we're not. A lot of the times you guys are like, there's not enough time. There's not enough time. If I asked each of you to stand up and get ready to go to the floor to do a 1-minute plank, you would be dying after 20 seconds to get that 1 minute over. It takes so long for that 1 minute to pass than the 1 minute to sit at your desk to pause. So really give yourself the aspiration of having better email communication, less typos or 0, and that you truly have the ability to take a full 60 seconds for the betterment of your brand as you communicate, as well as, this is a big one, and we'll kind of go to results. As all of this moves over, as all of this moves over, we want to buy back our own time. We want to elevate our brand. We want boundaries, which we don't have time for because we have a little bit of time. Boundaries, and we want to avoid burnout. Earning back our own time is going to the expectation, and where the true expectation is. Owning our own time will actually give us a sense of joy on the job if we have accomplished more versus feeling like we're running in place. You are always working on time productivity. And for the sake of boundaries, I want to talk about the word no for a minute. One of the curses of being an administrative professional is it feels good to be needed. And we use that often to give us the sense of success when everyone needs us. I still suffer from that sense of fulfillment, not nearly to the level in my younger years. Again, 42, happy to talk about my age. But I still fall back every now and then because it does feel good. I did not know the word no, but I will tell all of you it is a sexy word, and I love to hear it come out of my mouth because it helps me have these boundaries. And so for those that aren't ready to just start using no, here is one really great suggestion that helps you with your brand. It makes you reliable, and it helps you start working on boundaries, because a lot of the times I hear, I am so far in the hole in my role, I'm not going to be able to climb back out because I've only ever said yes. Try the suggestion I have on the right person first, so you can take that baby step into seeing, one, how it tastes saying it, how it was received. And if you have a confidant in the office, kind of let them know that you're working on having healthier boundaries for the betterment of your performance. That was a mouthful, I know. Healthy boundaries for the betterment of your performance. I will use Julia. Julia's come up to me, and I'm supporting the CEO of a Fortune 50 company. We have 5,000 employees, and we're in the Denver office. And Julia's she's a CHRO. Okay, Hilani, I absolutely need to get time with the CEO, Leah. When can I get in front of her? I've got this PowerPoint I need to get through. I need you to actually look at the PowerPoint before I look at it, because I want to approve to make sure that Leah wants to see it. She's going to be okay with it. I would say in response, based on my workload today and my priorities of today, I can look at that tomorrow, first thing in the morning, and get back to you. Would that be all right? I know sometimes people roll their eyes when I give that suggestion, because they're like, Hilani, you don't know. I feel like I need a reality show so you guys can see what I go through every day over here at Exceptional Admins. And I have some funny Instagram videos on the reality show concept. I would say that to Julia. I would also hope that Julia would know the magnitude of my to-do list is, yes, as important as hers, but because I'm not going to sit her down and get in the weeds with her to say, hey, look at my whole list of things I need to do, and it's already 3 o'clock, and she wants me now. It's letting her know that I have some boundaries. I do have priorities. I haven't truly said no, but I've asked you to connect with you tomorrow. That is one of the power plays that admins can start practicing to play on the boundaries. Any questions or thoughts on that? I see 3 things in the chat. I'm coming in. Oh, thank you, Leah. Okay, she's thrown some things in the chat. Avoiding burnout. My very first job, I guarantee I had ulcers. I supported a celebrity in LA. Had no idea what I signed up for, but it was when I realized I was bred for the executive assistant career. She was amazing, radio show host, television show host, book, New York Times bestselling author. It's the role that I had. Some of you guys might find this humorous. Every year served as an effective administrative individual equates to 2 years of your life. So if I've had 12 years of serving in administrative roles, that's 24 years of my life packaged in 12 years. And I love it when I speak to those that are wiser than myself, that are like, I don't want to do the math on that. That means I've got 60 years of experience if I've been doing it for 30. Avoiding burnout is paired up with those boundaries and with new ways to say, not right this minute. I just finished last night an amazing book, and it's called Do Nothing, and the title is slightly deceiving. And I need to go back and review it. I've got probably at least 100 tabbies on the 250 pages with all the different information. I'm going to write a blog post about it. Avoiding burnout comes with recognizing, and I said this a moment ago, the amount of people or tasks that need you do not define your success. We live in a society where it's very prescribing on, if you say you're busy, you're important. I think I'm important right now because I've got clients I'm helping, but my calendar actually has a lot of white space this week that I kind of don't know how to move with that, but I've welcomed that white space as a space to spend time with you guys, to fill this on my calendar, to do some research, finish reading a book. And I am identifying that as self-care. Having that moment of pause and recognizing that my well-being to continue serving on my purpose, which is one of my favorite episodes on the podcast. It's episode number 1. It's called What is My Purpose? It is so powerful to remember we are here for a purpose of being of service to others, which we all love, even though some days we're like, what did I sign up for? So avoiding burnout is a full independent accountability piece. And we hear it. It has such overplay. Quite honestly, we've become numb to the word burnout, to kind of what I was mentioning at the top, right? We've heard the same word over and over. We've heard self-care over and over. How are we changing the way that maybe we actually pause and say, wait a minute. Self-care is taking 5 minutes to myself. We have such a grand vision, which I always appreciate because I suffered from that before, where we move from 1.0 to 2.0. Why not 1.1? I mean, for any one of us that has an iPhone, the Apple updates are not 1.0 to 2.0. There's 1.1, 14.5, 14.6. So we want to be able to think more in a micro evolution, 1.1 to 1.2, 1.3. If we change the way we perceive time as energy, if we change the way that we perceive evolution, right, elevate our brand, we actually start to recognize how we can avoid burnout using the word no and having joy in our day. And that is a great segue with 18 minutes left to energy. I threw in the letter E into the SOARe on my own because I love the word energy. I'm super extroverted, but I absolutely started tapping into more of my introvert because of COVID, because this beautiful office I'm in is where I spend all my time, which is inside my house, which is where I work out, I eat, and I sleep. And I wasn't leaving the house, and I feed off of the love and excitement of others. And so I had to make this evaluation on how am I going to re-energize myself? And I have a cat too, so I love my cat. Hi to your sweet kitty. So energy can be a few things. For example, I would say that running essential oils in my diffuser is amazing for me. I also have rotating out every now and then my screensaver on my cell phone. I am super big on playing on positive words. Work hard, stay humble is in my office. The best is yet to come. Hustle and heart, happy. I don't think any of us have in our house, have a shitty day. You suck. Like no one has those out. And so why are we allowing those types of phrases to join us? And within energy, and I'll draw just a little circle here. How are we experiencing and what is our relationship with time? How are we using our time to fuel our energy? Are you using your time to do your hair? I did do my hair today for all of you, and I do have makeup on, but you can guarantee I'm going to be in a head top bun tomorrow and maybe just some sunblock. So I used my energy today and I managed my time with the intention of what I was going to do today. I also believe that a negative feedback loop. Oh, what do they mean by that? What do they mean by that? And we overanalyze and we overanalyze and we overly process. That a negative feedback loop is like literally standing on a treadmill and walking all day without stopping. It is exhausting. And so I have this rule, and I've heard a lot of people take it and use it, and it just fills me up. I have a 5-minute BS rule. If I'm having a bad day, if I'm feeling like I'm struggling about something, I allow myself 5 minutes only to be concerned, to process it. Caveat, you can have multiple 5-minute sessions in one day. I've been doing this rule for at least 10 years now. And at sort of that 5 and 6 year mark of loving myself and using that 5-minute rule, by the time I started the countdown clock, I was like, this is the 6th time today. Am I getting any farther, right? Am I serving myself better? Maybe. I find that by a minute and a half in, I've already moved my mind to something else. And so I read an amazing book. It's called Atomic Habits, and he did exceptional research. And within the book, he explains 66 consecutive days of something new is when it becomes natural. 66 consecutive days. Do you know how many days we had last year of sort of not going anywhere or doing anything? What habits did we bring into our life? What habits do we need to break now? So the feedback loop, the energy loop, adding things like a diffuser, something smelling good. I have burning all day today an amazing pumpkin candle. I wore colors today of fall because I'm ready for fall. And then we already have 80 degrees here in Denver again for the next 5 days, right? So what are you also manifesting? I have here in my office a ton of signage, and I would move my camera, but it will mess up everything right here for you guys, so I can't show you. But what are we doing with our energy? How is our energy serving us? And if you find that you get distracted easily to pick up your phone for Facebook or Instagram, you need to start tally marking that distraction and recognizing every time I spent those minutes doing that, how did it serve me well? So we have about 14 minutes left. That is it. And so we unpacked a lot, but not usually the full spectrum of everything that is covered in the 2 hour. And so Leah, thank you for dropping in the chats, those different episodes for everyone. I appreciate it. You can find it on the podcast tab on the Exceptional Admins website. So knowing we've got about 14 minutes to spend some time together, does anyone have any questions related to this or anything else that you may be thinking about that I may have wisdom on, or we can maybe follow up with you on that wisdom that will serve you better in your role and your career journey? Not everyone jump up to the chat box first.
Yeah, this is great. Let me just, I will unspotlight you, Hilani, so that we can all kind of be in one giant, oh, let's see here. Did I unspotlight you? It's like I haven't ever used Zoom before. So I will just say one of my key takeaways from all this, as you guys are thinking of some questions, is what you were saying about putting one message in an email, right? Just like, I don't want to send my executive tons of emails. I don't like the idea of just one after the next with different things to do, but do you have any, can you go a little bit deeper on that? Like, would you try to stick to one communication channel? Or how can you, if I have 5 things I need to talk to them, how can I avoid just putting it all in one email?
Yeah, I have found, great question. Thank you. I have found, and this is something I also talk about briefly when I'm speaking on the one-on-ones. A lot of the times individuals have their one-on-ones or their executives and themselves meeting on a Monday. That is when I hear often it is most punted off, dismissed, or rarely ever happens. My favorite day for a meeting is Thursday. And it kind of goes to the question you just asked. If we don't allow for at least a small duration of time, and I get nervous actually pinpointing 15 minutes, half hour, an hour, if we don't push pause on what we're doing to wait to see if more context shows up, we have prematurely inquired on something. So if there's anything within your list of asks that you could source someone else, listen in on a call, scroll through all those emails or the sent folder of your executive's inbox to gain context, you should be able to wait a little bit before sending that email because it's close to getting resolved or farther along in the process. I'm also a huge proponent on compartmentalization. Color coding on the calendar helps us to quickly digest your day. My color green means calls. Usually on Monday, I got nothing but 9 greens and it's tons of calls, mostly back to back with a few potty breaks in there and maybe lunch. Pink to me is I'm spending FaceTime with someone now, which is mostly virtual. And so I also then know in the sense of my audience, like, how do I need to show up for the day? So with your communication, if you can compartmentalize it and say, let's just use a small private equity office, right? The CFO has questions about this, or, I sat in that meeting with the CFO, they invited me. There's just one question that I believe I know the answer. Here's the answer, and here's a backup suggestion. If we just have a running list again, we've lost the opportunity to grab their attention more deeply with compartmentalization because they want to cherry pick what they want to respond to. And if you have those communication shortcuts, and they don't want to talk about anything with the CFO right now, because they're at an investor relations conference and they're doing so much that answer isn't even going to be relevant to the question. We want to give them a chance to skip it versus also giving the sense that they're ignoring you. So compartmentalizing that. And if you are very new in your role, new first 9 months, you should be sending communication with very little in that, and then specify that you have more that requires a dialogue. I'm scheduling a same page meeting with you because now is the time for that context for me. Does that help?
Yeah, I love that with the closing. More that requires dialogue. I'm following up.
Yes.
That's brilliant.
Mhm,
Brilliant.
mhm.
Okay, Susanna has asked a question. Susanna Kelly asks, what would you suggest when your executive does not trust you and questions everything you do?
I have a follow-up question, if I may learn. How long have you been in your role? Have a-
Can I just tell you instead of typing?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, please.
I started typing, but well, my role is kind of a combination of like 5 different things. It's executive assistant, it's all the finances, accounts receivables, payables. I do contracts, onboarding new clients. So we're a small business, so I do a lot of stuff. But when my executive is under a lot of pressure, it's like she questions everything. Like I try not to CC her on everything I do. So just her email box doesn't get full. And I try to take care of as much as I can. But then when she's under stress, she just like freaks out.
Yeah. How long have you been in this partnership?
It'll be 4 years in December.
So it has this been the same thing for all 4 years, or just in the last set of time?
No, it's not all the time.
Okay.
It's like when things are going smooth, she's okay. But the minute, like right now, the last couple of months, it's just been like the devil wears Prada.
Oh, okay. All right. Can we all just say a little prayer for Susanna? Okay. I love that. And thank you for the transparency. I know that we want to be very considerate of where you're at. A couple things come to mind, but if you have any more details, I don't want to cut you off.
No, that's basically like just she's being questioned everything, or like not trusting, making decisions that affect my job, and she just changes things. I was on vacation last week and she made a lot of changes and took some stuff away that I was doing, and she never said anything to me. So right now I'm just kind of feeling like, well, I don't know where I'm at.
So I can feel through the video here some disappointment, and I can also feel a sense of questioning of, where's your position? And so I want to be very thoughtful of that. The things that I have to suggest and to provide wisdom on are the following. There is something that you can do, and everyone could benefit from this wisdom: a take-home folder. It's not a physical folder unless you want it to be, but it is an email that you open up in the morning, Monday, and it is the running list of not everything you're doing, but the key things that this woman, your executive, would be interested in knowing where it's at. Then throughout the day, you're tracking activities and movement, which, yes, I realize is more of your time, but this is going to save you from the negative feedback loop of where am I not doing my job well? And that time is negative, which you will still spend, or we can spend it over here to solve the problem or address the issue with an option, right? In that email, you're tracking it. And in the subject line, it says updates, read only. You send it at the end of the day, and your header into it is I want to give you the relief of what occurred today. Please see specific updates of stuff I was able to handle. She, because your executive is a she's going to be able to go through that and close her eyes and not wonder, what did Susanna not do? Because I'm not babysitting Susanna. That's one suggestion that has been well. When Leah started with me, this was a very new role for her almost 2 years ago. She was doing take-home folders every night. And it wasn't for me to micromanage. It was to start establishing the habit of like where all the moving parts is of what we're doing. It was giving me this sense of like, what did she do? Because we were absolutely tag teaming, right? I was still doing a lot because I wanted her to onboard in a way that helped her feel like she had control. We don't do that now. Every now and then we do use Slack religiously all day, every day. She's giving updates all day long on all the different channels of where things are moving. So let's go old school. Let's make make it clean in one place, give her an email. If you are truly attached to finances, you are on the hot seat. Embrace that and realize that just as women in general, money means and feels differently in the mind than it does for others. So if you are managing the money and she is becoming obsessed with where things are at based on the seasonality of business, you have to recognize that you should be asking her, how can I relieve you from concerns about my responsibilities with finances? Would you like an email? Do you want a weekly financial report? Do you want me to highlight areas that we're overspending or we're underspending? There is a large responsibility on you to sort of be managing all of that. They just want to know where it's at. And so maybe figuring out how to inform her routinely on where each piece is so that she knows you are covering all of that. She may also not be fully established in her ability because she sees it as a misuse of her time, sitting down at your desk and saying, where are the finances at? I'm just sipping my coffee. I got nothing else going on. You want to serve that to her. On the sake of trust, I find a lot, having talked to over 3,500 admins in 4+ years, trust is broken when they personally have something bothering them. And or you're really bad at your job. And I don't know how you're performing, so I'm obviously not going to put you in a corner or her in a corner, but time and time again, it just continues to build on, and the fact that you answered that there's a season to the concerns that she runs through, something is holding her in a position of her own questioning. And so in the essence of serving, and in the essence of being able to provide information, you are the Google of the business for her. And so how can you serve her with information? Bigger thing, you mentioned you don't copy her on emails. There was a time where I realized a blind copy was powerful for me to close my mind at night. And so in the very beginning with Leah, or even when I was in my last role in the beginning, I specifically spoke up and said, I'm going to blind copy you. I don't care what you do with the email, but I need you to know in this first part, and I know you've been there 4 years, but we want to pivot with them, right? We also are experiencing an environment that is not standard to the way that we're used to living, 2019 and pre. We're now in this post 2020 era. I want to let you know what's going on. Would blind copying you sometimes help you?
Okay.
The reason that they struggle with trust and they start to oversee you, manage you, and suffocate you is because they don't feel like they have a hold on things, and you're immediate and you're right there with your hands in it. So they want to have a little bit of a tighter hold on you. Does any of that help resonate, give you something to work with?
Yes.
Okay.
That makes sense. So. Thank you.
Yes, of course.
Hilani, this has been amazing. We're at time now.
We are. Okay.
Yeah, I know. That was really good. A really nice deep dive into that question. I think everyone kind of could benefit from that response. So thank you so much for joining us. And thanks to all of you guys for tuning in this afternoon, this evening. Hilani, before you go, where can people find you? I know that your podcast, Leah linked to it, which is awesome. So we should all check that out. Where else can we find you?
Yeah, so I have routine things that pop up that are business with some just a peppering of fun in LinkedIn. I have a wealth of information on the website exceptionaladmins.com. I also have an Instagram, which is fun. I'm a little bit more playful over there. I also have the behind the scenes reality show stuff that comes up where I kind of let you know what's going on over here. It's talent acquisition's hard. And especially for this beautiful role that is a large part of the C-suite and other areas of the organization. I mean, you guys are all in it and I was in it. It's very special. And we are a unique family of professionals that love to serve. The website is great, Exceptional Admins. The LinkedIn business page is great. Anyone in Denver, I have a workshop coming up on November 4th. Tickets go live next week for that. It's very exciting. There's a lot of teasers for that. on the EA University page of the website. And Julia, I'm just so glad that we came together and that I had a chance to spend this time with you and our guests.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah. And I can't wait to meet you in person soon. Thanks.
I know we're in the same area. So thanks everyone. Have a great week and happy fall.
Thanks, Leah. Thanks everybody.
Thanks.